Michael Bay, and more explosions. Spoiler alert.
Welcome to the first episode of Keeping It Real, where we are discussing Transformers 4, Age of Extinction, for some unknown reason.
I'm going to take another drink before we start.
So, if you've seen the first three movies, this is pretty much more of the same. We're doing spoilers, and the rough thing is this takes place, 4 or 5 years after Chicago?
5 years. Yep.
After Dark of the Moon, there's a bounty hunter, Decepticon, ex-Decepticon I think he is, called Lockdown, who's rounding up Transformers on Earth, working with Kelsey Grammer's character, who's a CIA director or something, Adinger, and Mark Wahlberg discovers Optimus Prime, and that pretty much kicks off the whole movie. And about 2 hours and 30 minutes in, the Dinobots showed up.
Yeah, stuff happens for about 2.5 hours, and then the Dinobots show up.
And in the middle of that stuff, Galvatron showed up for a little bit too.
So pretty much it was like the other three. Stuff, explosions, hot babes, explosions, stuff, and Transformers.
And some more stuff.
And some more stuff.
I didn't think it was possible, but somehow Galvatron, I believe, was in this movie less than Megatron was in the 07 original movie.
I think this is the one thing with Michael Bay and all these movies that always, and I wasn't surprised, but I mean, by Transformers 4, if you're surprised what was going to happen, I think then you really haven't watched the other three. This was the Fallen, Megatron, Shockwave syndrome, where we're going to advertise these things non-stop. We're going to put them on the poster, and they're in it for 10 minutes. Maybe 10 minutes of screen time.
We're going to make them 90% of the toys that are available.
We're going to put them on the cover, the toys, the poster, 10 minutes of screen time. In fact, we're going to name the title and hint towards that.
Yeah.
10 minutes worth in the movie. That was it.
Yeah. You know what the funny thing is, though? I think even though when they did Revenge of the Fallen, I only ever saw one Fallen action figure that was one size that transformed into a jet or something. Shockwave they had a lot of when Dark of the Moon came out. And the Dinobots are
all over the movie. You would think, you go to Walmart, we were talking, you go into a store, Toys R Us, Walmart, you think, man, this Age of Extinction, well, you were thinking he hit towards dinosaurs, the Dinobots. Yeah. 10 minutes worth of screen time. It's
And also, if you look at Grimlock and I think Slug, what they renamed Slag, the Triceratops, he's Slug for some reason now. Anyways, you would look at how they look in the action figures, and you would also think, besides assuming they're all over the movie at some point, you would also say at one point my Paladin or Druid looked like them in World of Warcraft a few expansions ago. That struck more home with me than it did with him.
No, I don't nitpick a lot of that stuff doesn't bother me for weeks like this guy right here. Now back to the movie. So basically, after you establish the first 45 minutes of this movie, actually I liked. I thought it was good. It was paced well. There was none of that jumpy where they'll transform, drive, and end up halfway across the world in 5 minutes. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah.
So basically, we have Aaron Yeager, Cade Yeager.
Frank Cade Yeager.
Cade Yeager. Yeah, I'm sorry. Aaron was from the Attack on Titan. Basically, Mark Wahlberg's character is an inventor, lives in Texas, and basically finds Optimus Prime for $150. Doesn't know he's Optimus Prime. Brings him back to his barn, and then the shit hits the fan. After about the first half hour, you're setting this up, and then it's more of the same. It's explosions, and I think for me, the one biggest thing is, so they find Optimus Prime. He's the classic,
beat to
shit truck. They find all these, bullet shells. It looks like he's been shot and then this is kind of where the problem is you kind of learn the thing. This is where the backstory happens. So you're learning the backstory as the movie's evolving, and they're just kind of sort of giving you that lockdown has been on Earth and been an asset to the government, Cemetery Wind, for about 5 years, and they make a deal with him. He's looking. They get the seed, and you learn what the seed is in the movie. But we'll plant the seed right now.
Yeah.
You see what I did there?
Speaking of Cemetery Wind, I will say Kelsey Grammer, probably the best part of the entire movie.
He was a prick.
Besides,
he was a prick, cocky prick.
And Hound, voiced by John Goodman, probably the most likable
stole the show
character.
Stole the show.
Stole the show and most likable character, because a lot of the other characters, even Bumblebee, like the children's character, was very angry the entire film. Like they were all. He went from Optimus Prime to Optimus Pissed. Just a generally bad attitude for 80% plus of the movie. But as a villain, I thought Kelsey Grammer was very effective. They made him a lot like, his character was very cocky. The way that they introduce him is the most arrogant way you can. I mean, he was just the most arrogant, cocky prick. Like, I don't give a fuck. Yeah.
I'm just gonna sit here and whatever you say, I got an answer for it, and I'm a dick. I'm not going to change my fucking tone. I'm just going to sit there. Yep, I'm a dick. And that's perfect. He was like that throughout the entire movie. Never really changed his tone. They kept him sort of the same. And you sort of learn with his character why, we won't give it, spoil it just yet, but it's like anything else. You do it for the money.
Yeah.
And then that connects with the seed, but we'll get to that later. Part of our review.
And I mean, Kelsey Grammer is no stranger to being the best part of something. I mean, I sat through almost the entire series of Boss for 2 seasons.
Yeah, we're drifting now. We're
drifting.
Okay, we're drifting.
Drift. I see what you did.
See what I did there? Yeah.
Yeah, drift.
So, we learn now Optimus Prime is damaged in a battle at some point in those 5 years that they almost caught lockdown, and the Cemetery Wind was chasing down Optimus Prime. Now they're telling the public that it's Decepticons, but we're learning that it's Transformers. You'll find out why later on in the review. But Optimus Prime is, heavily damaged. And this is the one thing I don't get. We were talking about this earlier. That's the movie. He needs he went to the point when he's transforming, he said, he looked back, he said, I need the Autobots. They can fix me. And then, shit hits the fan. He's driving off. What does he do?
Scans a new truck.
Done. How does that? Why do we even need that? We could just could have walked down the street. For 5 years, you're sitting in there. Now I know he was offline for a little bit because he was damaged, and he was too weak to transform until Jaeger,
took that shell out of his chest or something.
Yeah, and so I get it, but it's like you're sitting there, and your whole thing was, I need the other Autobots. That was the whole thing. Is I got to get the Autobots. 2 seconds later, he's a brand new spanking truck. Got the shit. All the old paint chipping off him. I mean, I don't know. It's that fast-paced Michael Bay. They go from one corner of the earth to the other in 3 seconds, and they don't explain anything in between. You don't even know. Like they're in the middle of a desert. They go from Texas to the middle of a desert in a old drive-in, or they got setting up an old.
They had the inspiration and the skeleton and the character sketches from a lot of the comic books in the early 2000s from Dreamwave, specifically the original
that's
Dreamwave.
I think, that's the core of a lot of these movies.
And they had a lot of the inspiration, but they didn't have this. They didn't have the story structure, and they didn't have the pacing of the inspiration. This had the spirit of, in a lot of ways, of the first volume of Dreamwave G1. But it just didn't have the impact that book made with me back about, some 10, 12 years ago at this point.
I think the thing with a lot of these movies, and, it's they take a little bit from here, and a little bit from here, and a little bit from there, and they put it together, and then it's like, you're supposed to be learning about these characters because, let's face it, if 4 movies in, there's no character development whatsoever. The character development is quick. I'm Optimus Prime, explosions. I'm Kate Yeager, explosions. I'm Tessa Yeager, explosions. You know, I mean, that's all it is, really. And so, and I understand, I mean, people are going to watch this and say, well, we're really bitching about a toy line that was made into a cartoon that's made into a movie. That's true. But at some point, you have to calm down and explain why they're going from point A to point B, and not try to explain it as it's as it's happening. I
think
can't stand that.
And I think it's become almost passé amongst a lot of YouTubers, amongst a lot of critics, that it's just, this is the whipping boy every time one of these movies come out. It's, you either make some kind of joke about it in passing, or you just make some scathing review that dumps all over it. And it seems to be what they've done with every movie since the first one. The first one was so heavy into the human element, it was almost a pretentious hand job on itself. The more they went in the spirit of the franchise and less in the spirit of what Spielberg and a couple of douchebags thought of Transformers movie should have been, was when it actually, to me as a fan, it got better.
I think the thing, these movies, and we're getting into the point now. Now we're getting into what we liked. I know it seems like we didn't like this movie, but I liked a lot about this movie. The one thing I liked a lot about is more Transformers on screen. Mm-hmm. Screen time on Transformers. More developed Transformers, like Drift. Hound stole the show. It wasn't just the Bumblebee and Optimus Prime show. Yeah. Bumblebee was in it a lot more. You got to see a different side of Prime and Bumblebee, because I think that, and they set up so those two were sort of the veterans of the movie now, because everybody else is gone. Ratchet dies at the beginning of the movie, and so they sort of killing off. And I understand, to sell more toys, but it's pretty good. I like to see the new Transformers. Hound, like we said, stole the show. John Goodman, we were saying going into this, I wasn't sure how it was going to be. It was perfect. Like, I couldn't see anybody else playing, Hound at this point.
I didn't even pay attention to the fact that it was Goodman most of the time.
It was just great. The character was great. He was this grizzly old, cigar-smoking veteran that just had guns and wanted to blow shit up. It was like a funnier version of Ironhide, essentially. Because Ironhide, that's who he's kind of replacing.
And with more personality.
With more personality instead of just being, and more charming character. Drift was really cool. Crosshairs was a really cool character who...
But not really likable. Generally not likable.
He was supposed to be a prick. I think he was supposed to be a prick.
I think a lot of them were supposed to be likable, but they were also... It's funny. It's hard to write characters like that, especially when you're writing animated robots. They're supposed to be in a bad mood. They're supposed to be angry, but they're supposed to still be likable. And you don't really. You can only do so much to try to convey a range of emotion that way. And I can understand that it's ironic what Kate Yeager buys Optimus for like $150 when. I'm pretty sure that's what the toys cost nowadays.
It's kind of like you're really buying Optimus Prime for $150.
You really bought Optimus.
You really bought Optimus Prime for $150, like Kate Yeager in the movie. Well, and I think when you introduce new characters, like you're bringing in Galvatron, and you're bringing in Galvatron without introducing Unicron. So how do you do it? Well, you do it the way
Transformers Animated did it.
And you sort of make Galvatron, you go that way, without having to. Which we all know. I think we're pretty much safe to say that Part 6 is the last of this new trilogy, which will be Unicron. Yeah.
And didn't I tell you about a year ago when we were talking about getting we were actually getting psyched for this movie at one point, and I said, how much do you want to bet if Unicron's not going to be used, we're going to find Megatron. The tractor trailer from Dark of the Moon, severed head,
we were saying that.
Is going to be chilling in a human lab, doing like he did in Transformers Animated, making his own body, almost without the. Except in this one, he had the cooperation of the humans because he was he was just sort of influencing the process. And the funny thing is you had that mini Autobot from Dark of the Moon. I forget his name.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't Wheelie or whatever he was.
No,
whoever
it was
he
the other one that wasn't Wheelie. It was yeah.
And he knew it the whole time. The whole time they had Megatron's head, he knew that what Megatron was doing, and he didn't try to warn the humans. He was just translating all the data and helping them figure out all the algorithms to build the Transformers. He tells them blatantly he knew what Megatron was doing, and they ask him, why didn't you stop him? And his explanation amounted to, well, just because. He didn't feel like warning them.
He was a prisoner, and you know, I guess if I was in that same situation, I would do the same shit. I'd be like, hey, listen, you know what? F you, I'm just going to do this because, you know,
and he pretty much does that. Like 2 minutes after he gives that explanation, he's like, screw you guys, I'm out of here, and he leaves the movie.
And it's, you know, the movie sort of at this point is, you know, taking, it's going into, because now, you know, it's, by this point, they're in lockdown ship. You know, so we're kind of getting into now. They're talking about the seed, and the seed at the beginning of the movie. What we think are, you know, the creators, the Transformer creators, the Quintessons.
Yeah, it's going to
Quintessons. Come down, and they're the ones that trying to basically terraform the Earth and make it into Cybertron 2.0.
Yeah.
And you learn that they're the ones that extinct the dinosaurs.
I'll do you one better. That could be the Vok from Beast Wars.
That could be. I
just dusted off something that kicks you all the way back to 1996.
You know, the only thing with that is the way that these movies are patterned. I just don't see anything but the Quintessons to lead to Unicron.
Yes, but they pull something from everywhere.
They do. I would normally give it to you, but I think you're going Super Saiyan Geek on that one, just to pull something out of the ass that's be different. There's no way that cannot be the Quintessons, unless we're gonna see Optimus Primal versus Optimus Prime in the next one. I'll pay for that.
That would be awesome.
I would pay to see a gorilla Optimus Prime versus the Mack truck.
That would be,
or he protoforms into a gorilla.
That'll be something like the DC, what was it, 0 Hour, where it's like 5,000 different Supermen from 5 seconds in time fighting, what was it, Parallax? Or Gog, or it was some major villain.
Yeah, what's straight now?
That was from like, I think it was from the Kingdom or from 0 Hour or something. But back on track there. Similar process. Be awesome to see like 5,000 different Optimus.
I would fighting like to see all the Optimus Primes just battle out who's the King Prime.
That would be awesome, because then you could have something completely modeled after like the G1 Grimlock, just bitch slap this new one and just like do a Hulk spit on it.
Will
be like,
will
jerk.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's like I said. You know, at this point, we're getting into the, you know, they poorly shoved down the throat, and this is what we were talking about with Godzilla. And we're not trying to stray here, but just too much human element.
Yeah.
Give me fucking Transformers for 3 hours, and just have them beat the shit out of each other. That's all I want to see.
A lot of these summer movies so far seem to be overlapping in a lot of similar flaws.
Yeah, it's you know, with Spider-Man, it was Gwen Stacy getting in the way of, and it was him trying to balance that and being Spider-Man. So you got the human element in the superhero movie. Okay, in X-Men, it was the same shit. It was human rights versus mutants, and the whole, you know, Trask, you know, human like fighting for humans and protecting and blah blah blah. You know,
Hugo was right.
In Godzilla, it was the humans, you know, the human element, you know, humans for survival, blah blah blah. Yeah. And Transformers is the same shit. It's like, you know, we get it, but in this type of story, it's like you go from Texas to Mark Wahlberg and his daughter's boyfriend sitting in the car being like, calling him Lucky Charms throughout the whole movie because he's Irish. Yeah. And he's sitting there saying, oh, I can't protect her. You're going to protect her, blah, blah. It's like, why have this love story and this, you know, father protecting when you haven't touched on it for an hour and a half so far into this movie?
Yeah, and
it was just out of nowhere. It's like
exactly,
it's like okay, that's fine, but they didn't have any time to be like, I love you.
Well, no, this is what happens when you follow the Independence Day formula. Everything is normal for like 5 seconds. Something happens, bad guys show up, talk for a while, battle, talk for another hour, final battle, we go home.
That's it.
And we wrap it up. And that's pretty much become a summer movie formula for a lot of films.
For a lot of movies.
Do some do it better than others? Absolutely. Do plenty of them come out every summer and do it like complete shit? Absolutely.
Yep.
But it's the formula that was pretty much established with Independence Day of, if you're going to have a human race in peril or a civilization in peril, and you're going to have some technological or alien threat, bullet points. You can fill in blanks, and you basically mad-lib a summer movie.
Yeah, but the thing is,
you can do it.
When you dump it like 45, 50 minutes into the movie, and then touch base on it randomly, just to have that scene of like, oh, because you need to fill something, then don't put it in the movie. It's just stupid to just not go into something and then go back to it, and then you're like, well, what the fuck? I just watched awesome explosions, and now, mind you, this is after the whole lockdown in the ship escaping, and it's almost an hour. That's the middle of the movie, an hour of fucking awesome action, and then that's it. And then we go to a human element, which you haven't touched base on, and then done. It's the rest of it is fucking explosions. It's another movie that I would say and as you say, and for the cherry picking element, it draws a lot of bad feelings to me of the structure. Was like Dark Knight Rises. Well, some of No Man's Land, some of Nightfall, some of Bane of the Demon, some of a villain who really ends up being just a lackey because Galvatron was manipulating him the whole time. Yeah, they needed to save
and he never
Galvatron
really
for the
knew
next
it.
movie.
And what happens is like an hour and a half. It was a good movie. It was not a bad movie. It was not bad. Did I enjoy it? Yes. Do I still rip it to hell? Yes. Can I help it at that? Can I help myself at this point?
Yeah.
Because of what they've done with the franchise? Absolutely not. But I can still stand behind and admit what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's unavoidable. I admit, I'm conditioned to just rip into the stuff from it that I didn't like. And it is what it is. And I had that same moment with Dark Knight Rises.
You're more of a
2 hours in. Let's just be done with this. Can we just be done? With
it? We both have these conversations. We both cherry pick. It bugs him a lot more than it does me, because I can forgive if they change a guy's skin color or whatever. This guy,
I forgive that.
Okay, they'll learn.
I like Daredevil. I thought Daredevil was a good movie. Michael Clark Duncan as Daredevil. That is my response to that.
But that's the thing is, there's no white guy that can match that guy's stature and be a perfect, other than it was black, it wasn't white, but who cares? I mean, he played a good. I don't know why so many people harped on Michael Clark Duncan. I thought it was perfect. You couldn't picture anybody to play the Kingsman.
There was nobody you look at a movie similar to that. We can make a point like that. You know what? You look at a movie like Catwoman. Didn't matter who played Catwoman. That movie was beyond whoever the actress was to fix.
Yeah, it was a crazy bad movie.
Yeah,
it was a bad word. But anyways,
to wrap this up, if we were going to wrap this up and just get down to, what's the brass tacks of this? We saw it.
Well, we still got to introduce the Dinobots. Don't forget that.
We did introduce the Dinobots. They were there for about 5 seconds.
Okay, that's right.
We introduced
just like
the
that.
Dinobots.
That's it. That's all the Dinobots.
And the Dinobots left. Were they some great special effects? Yes. Did they look cool? Yes. Were they utilized to their full potential? Hell no. Could they have been in the movie about a half hour before they went into it? Absolutely.
Well, you had the thing with it is you had at the end of the movie. Obviously we're not. Spoiler alert, they kill Lockdown. They fucking quadruple team him.
Yeah.
To take down Lockdown. He goes down, and then this movie was just to set up this is the kickoff of, and I think it's funny, and I was telling Walter earlier that I think it's funny that this movie parallels a lot because it's the first one in the new trilogy, a lot like the first Transformers.
Yeah.
Same basic thing, basic premise. If you go out there, useless human characters, ones you don't even need, and that's the millionaire, the blonde chick that he was banging. Those were the engineers, the black guy and the chick at the beginning and the other ones.
Anthony Anderson, and the Australian girl
chick.
Her name escapes me. We're sorry.
Yeah,
we're sorry.
I haven't seen the first one in years. But anyways, so these characters were placed by a bald millionaire who actually I liked in this movie. And you'll learn who kind of sort of changed heart. This Asian chick and another Australian bald chick. That it's those three are the other one's useless character. The military in this one, they just change sides. They go from good to evil. So they help the Decepticons essentially. And then we have this guy, a hot chick, and her boyfriend. So stop me if you've seen this one coming. The first Transformers.
And I enjoyed it. I will say I enjoyed it, and I don't hate the fact that it has multi-leveled storytelling. I absolutely don't.
Because it's not as bad as Revenge of the Fallen.
You had some characters in doing a multi-leveled back and forth story. You had characters like Kelsey Grammer, who, as from a human element for a human character, I think stole the show. It's fair enough to say that, and that made it worthwhile, and it made you willing to sit through it. But 2 hours and 45 minutes, I wanted to be done with it before the Dinobots even got on screen. That was too much. I'm not saying I hate multi-leveled storytelling, but the pacing was way off. Michael Bay can't tell multi-leveled storytelling. I'm sorry. It needs to be said.
It's one of those things that I think when you getting to the point, and this is with a lot of his movies, because the end, I want to say one big action, and Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon had this problem. The last sequence, the last act, is like 30 to 40 minutes of just non-stop action, and he's trying to cram everything with storytelling in it, and you just can't do it. And that's the thing that pisses me off. It's like you had 2 hours and 10 minutes to do that, and you're trying to condense everything in the last 40 minutes, whatever, of this movie, and it's like, for the love of friggin' Christ, you see the Dinobots in robot mode twice, and you learn they're not just Dinobots.
They're mystical knights.
They're mystical knights that somehow Prime was hanging out with them years ago. I don't know if they're going to touch base in this, if this is the setup for the next two, or what. I have a feeling that's going to come back.
We'll be groaning our way through that one in a couple of years.
In a couple of years when Part 5 comes out.
Yeah.
But, okay, I want to know more about that. Well, they touch base on it for 5 seconds. They make two transformations. When they come out and they sit there and Prime defeats Grimlock and basically, earns their trust. And then at the end when he frees him and on a bridge, so 3 times. Three times to see him in robot mode, and probably a total time, like I said, of 8 minutes of screen
time. And then
time.
it's over.
And then it's over. And then you're like, well, that's kind of like the commercials I saw for months and months and months. I want the Dinobots.
You saw all of it.
So my final thoughts on this, it was more of the same. I liked it because I knew what I was going to get going into it. But for God's sakes, 5 and 6, especially if you're going to do the Quintessons into Unicron, you can't do the same shit where it's like, here's Unicron coming, a bunch of shit happens, and then
he transforms
and he's done.
Oh, like how he was done in Transformers Armada.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
So, it has to be, they have to do it in a way where I don't want to see, because Revenge of the Fallen, Age of Extinction, and Dark of the Moon, not in that order, all had the same problem. 2 hours and 5 minutes he had to set up this movie, and he did a shitty job. And the last 40 minutes is everything crammed in together, explosions, storytelling, and then finishing the movie. And it's like, you have to kill a bad guy off. Lockdown is a badass character, dies way too quick.
Yeah, and
because why? They ran out of time.
Ended up being used a lot more, and he was one of the most under-promoted characters. I mean, I can sum this up in 3 points. My 3 points to sum this up would be, number 1, like I said, Michael Bay cannot tell multi-layered storytelling. I like that they tried it, I respect what they were trying to do. I overall enjoyed it, but the execution was very poor.
Yeah.
Number 2, if they're gonna put characters in the trailers, make a big deal out of them, then they have to actually use them. I'm tired of 4 movies now. You know, Megatron in the original movie, the Fallen in the second one, Shockwave in the third one, the Dinobots and Galvatron in this one.
Yeah.
I'm tired of the setup where they're not delivering. It doesn't work. And, I mean, and the third point is, and as we talked about, where they cherry pick from all these different things. They go to some of the comics, they go to some of the cartoons, they go to all this different lore. It's like, if you're going to cherry pick, get some writers who know how to cherry pick. Yeah, you know?
You know, I'll close with my thing. I don't have the 3 point. I agree with you. So, you know, this will be easy. I like the movie. You know, it's more of the same. So when you go into the theater and if you're expecting anything different, it's right down to the same typical, you know, quick-paced movie, tons of visual effects, explosions, and, you know, plot holes galore.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, well, what the fuck happened to this? What the fuck happened here? So it's more of the same. I mean, it sounds like we really hated it, but overall, it's just like the other ones. There's nothing really, anything spectacular.
You know it's not going to add up. It's just a matter of how much and how badly is some of the stuff.
Yeah, it's buy popcorn. It's buy popcorn and sit for 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes, and watch shit happen.
At least there was no robot heaven.
At least there was no robot heaven. And on that note, this has been Keeping It Real.
And I'm Wally.
I'm Mike.
And before we go, we got to score this. We got to score this.
That's right.
Before we cut it off.
I'll give this 3.5 fire-breathing Dinobots.
I'll go. I don't. We're going out. You're going out of 5 on that. I'm guessing with 3.5 because you could be going out of 10.
This is true. We'll keep it at 5.
Okay, keeping it at 5. You're going 3.5. I'm going with probably a little bit lower. I'm gonna go with just a solid 3 out of 5. I mean. As
5.
I said, never hated it.
Fire-breathing Dinobots.
Yeah, 3 fire-breathing Dinobots. 3 fire-breathing Grimlocks out of 5.
Because you have to have that in every movie. From
and
now on.
I will say, like I said, didn't hate it, didn't love it. It's more the same, you know. And I'm not gonna compare this like, oh, I'm comparing this to, you know, Pulp Fiction or The Godfather. I'm just looking at it for what it is, and for what it is.
This will never be a.
Yeah.
These movies are never going to be Academy Award-winning Best Picture movies, so...
You have to just review it for what it is, and for what it is, on its own, I would call it, I would say it's solid. And that's probably the best backhanded sounding compliment I can pay it. But it was solid, so yeah, I would say, so 3 out of 5, 3.5 out of 5, it's solid.
You know what you're saying, folks. Yeah, you know what you're saying, so...
And on that note...
Now we're really going to go by. I'm Mike.
I'm Wally. And this has been Keeping It Real.
He said his name twice. I'm Mike.